All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to our DaaS sales workshops, first one here in 2026. And we are excited to kind of kick off the new year, first off, and secondly, kind of get back into our regular routine. So as I already see, this is the first workshop back for me after a couple weeks of vacation for the holidays, taking some extra time off. And I know our, workshop series has been a little light the last 2 weeks, but we're getting back to all normal schedule. And again, as I kind of expected, we have a little bit of a light turnout today. I only see 4 or 5 of you on here right now. But as you guys know, for anybody that's been on these repeatedly, and it looks like I see a couple of newer names and newer faces here that either just enrolled or haven't yet been on my workshops. But, the DaaS sales workshops are primarily around how to position, how to package, how to price, overcoming objections, etc. Where I'm going to go through and give you guys some resources that I give away on every one of these workshops in case anybody hasn't got that stuff, and then go over some sales lessons and a bit of a Q&A. Doug, you already have a question right off the start. Why don't you go ahead before I kind of get into things? What do you got, and what can I help with?
Hey Ray, thanks for connecting. Happy New Year. Glad to see you're back on your feet.
Yeah.
So question for you. It's basically about pricing, because as you know, there's different tiers of businesses, small, medium, large size businesses. And sometimes it doesn't really make sense when you're offering like a certain price package for a small business versus more of like an enterprise business that has a lot of financial backing. Um, One of the things that I'm seeing lately is I just want to get your feedback on the pricing structure. Um, some companies they just want data sets that's based on local areas, a couple of cities, this and that. And then some companies like, yeah, we want the data of the entire United States of this type of particular profile. Um, so I'm just, thinking like currently my pricing structure is like roughly like around 1,000 per audience build out. And then I'm just thinking, well, it kind of doesn't make sense if I'm offering it for local regions and then an enterprise company wants it for every single state in the United States. And then 1,000 just seems way too small. Um, I'm just thinking your thoughts on like a pricing structure for more enterprise type clients of what makes more sense and based on the geography.
Gotcha. So you're talking about for more the higher tier, more the enterprise clients, more the person that's going to want the nationwide data.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So again, there's all kinds of different pricing models, and we can talk about this and go over it. Like, we can sell per list, we can sell per lead, we can sell per profile, per match. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways we can do this. But as I always like to say, the least I would sell a list for to anybody is $750. That would be my bottom of the barrel, lowest tier pricing. And that's for, like you talked about, more of your small businesses, more people that only need a little, smaller locations, etc. You may be right with what you said, like, hey, it might not make sense for certain smaller companies to have the budget for that. You may be right, but that also goes back to targeting the right clients. We want to be targeting clients that can take this data and run with it and embed it into their marketing campaigns. If they're
Right.
not currently running marketing campaigns, paid ads, etc., maybe we want to change who we're reaching out to. So that's also another thought. I know that's a little bit of a sidebar. What I would say to my more enterprise clients, I think $1,000 is very good pricing, Doug, and you might even be able to go a bit higher than that. What niche or industry specifically are you serving, Doug, or you do a wide variety?
I'm doing a wide variety, but this one in particular that has a large footprint. They're a national company that does loan options for like mortgage, FHA, VA home, and jumbo home loans. So there's like multiple different service product offerings that they have. So I was kind of thinking along the lines of, hey, I'll charge 1,000 per fixed rate mortgage audience, 1,000 for FHA home loan, so on and so forth, like that type of pricing model. What's your thoughts on something like that?
That's a good way to do it. I always like to kind of know the average order value off of that particular product. I mean, that usually kind of helps me gauge a little better, guesstimation of how I want to price this. More higher ticket products and services, you can probably charge more per list and then lower a little less per list. But I think you're pricing what you're talking about there. Again, for those more enterprise companies and people that are going to want the nationwide data, Doug, I think your $1,000 price is spot on at a bare minimum price I would sell to an enterprise account. I think a lot of times you can charge higher, and I probably would start higher. As you know, in sales, we can always come down, but you can't go up. Once you quote a price, you can't charge more than you quoted, right? We can always
Right.
go down a little bit. So I think it really depends. For instance, I bring up this example on a few different workshops. So for a few of you guys, this might be redundant, but I remember in 2025, I was doing a workshop back in the spring, and Garrett Nan, this was a good example, was running audiences for private injury attorneys. He was telling me about this one smaller one he had in the state of New York. It wasn't nationwide by any means, but they did have a few offices around upstate and all of New York State. So there would be multiple lists and multiple different audiences. Anyway, when Garrett was asking me what I should charge for that client, I told him I thought around 2 grand per list. And it's funny, he came back to me saying, Ray, that sounds kind of high, and I don't know if they'll pay it, yada, yada, yada. Long story short, they bought for 2,000 a list. This injury attorney was buying 4 lists off Garrett per month. So obviously you can do the math, 2 grand per list, 4 grand per or 4 lists per month. So he was making about 8 grand per month off that one private injury attorney. Now, what he come to find, and what he said to me on that workshop was, hey, Ray, I feel like I really shot myself in the foot. I could have probably charged much higher than 2K per list. Turns out what I've seen the data, they're making about 30 to 60K off every list that I'm providing them. So again, knowing after you do this a couple times for a couple clients in each different niche or industry you're serving, you're going to know what the average or, par for the course type of ROI they're seeing off each list, which also helps you dictate pricing. So again, I wouldn't go less than 1,000. I think I would go closer to that $2,000 to start for my enterprise, and then I could scale it back a little if money becomes an objection. But generally speaking, money only really becomes an objection on a sales call if anybody really thinks about it when they don't see the value that correlates to the money that we're asking for, right? If I say $2,000 and you see a clear path to make 10 off that, you're probably not going to think twice to buy. But if I say $2,000 for something you're going to get a $50 return on, you're going to think it's too much, right? So it also still goes back to the sales process, the value we're providing, and what the end results that they should see. And of course, we want to make sure that they have a pretty significant ROI. But in Garrett's case, they were making 30 to 60K per list. So you think about that. They were paying him 2K per list. So each list, they're making a 15 to 30x ROI off each list. Now that's crazy. He could have definitely charged more, but he didn't know that going in. So I don't know if that specifically answers your question. There's no one right answer for you, Doug, but I would say I would probably price it at about 2K per list for those enterprise, those larger accounts, and you could come down a little on that price if need be. I think what you said was probably right when you're working with a company in like you said, real estate, mortgage. They might do mortgage refinance, they might do new home loans, they might do HUD, whatever. Each one is a little different product that's going to need a different list, and I would be charging a premium per list. Companies that I think are going to buy multiple lists per month, I might go down a little on my a la carte list charge as opposed to a client that just buys one per month.
Right. Yeah. And there was another client that I was charging 2K per list. And then I didn't find out later how big that company actually was until much later in the sales process. So yeah, I did shoot myself in the foot
So
on
you can
that.
relate.
Yeah. So as far as like the national size list versus like general location size list, would it be along those same lines of like, hey, if you want a national list, then it'll be like 2K versus a local list that's like 1K, something like that as an example?
I mean, yeah, that's one good way to do it. Personally, for me, I don't really change my pricing too much based off the size of the list or how many locations. You certainly can, and it makes sense. It obviously makes sense. But what I always tell people, it's more about the quality of the leads I'm getting them, not the quantity, right? So quantity is great, but if I'm getting you a quantity, let's just say I build you a list of $500,000 people and upload it to your CRM and get no buyers. Would you rather have a 500,000 crappy leads or 10,000 high quality leads? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
again, when we're building these lists, quantity is great, but it's always secondary to quality, in my opinion. And that's what we're really selling. We're selling the quality of the leads and how many in the locations they need. So, again, yes, can you charge more for national and larger lists than local? Or, yes, you can. For me, I don't deviate because when I'm selling this, I'm selling a solution and I'm selling the leads you need for your business. If you only need 6 cities and 8 zip codes, that's you. If the next guy needs nationwide, that's him, but I still charge per list. Now, again, totally up to you. You can tier it for, and that's also good to have different pricing tiers. Hey, if you want my entry level package, that's a local list of the cities and zip codes around your whatever home office, let's just say. Or you can buy the national list where you get all the nationwide data if you're selling to all 50 states. And you can tier the pricing that way. But
Yeah.
again, it's just a couple different thoughts there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then one other quick question. Have you ever dealt with clients that were just not happy with the data and asking for like a refund on the data? And how would you typically handle something like that if they weren't satisfied with the data?
I've had a client that wasn't happy with any product or item I've ever sold. Doesn't matter what it is. You're always going to find somebody that's unhappy.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the game. I could sell these pens all day, and somebody's going to come back saying this pen wasn't good enough for them, right?
Right.
So my thought is you just want to be very transparent in the sales process. I don't give refunds for data. Once you pulled the list off of my platform, or for you guys as resellers out of your package, you don't get that list back. So do you get a credit for it? Why should they get a credit for it? Um, Normally, this is what happens normally when the data isn't performing. Not always. There's always going to be outliers, but generally speaking, it's largely correlated to the reactivation method. So, hey, I provided you this data, Mr. Customer. You're unhappy with it. How did you reactivate it? Well, we sent out a bunch of generic emails with a generic subject line, and we didn't like. Again, it really, you just gotta, I think you just gotta set the right expectations. As I have said on many of these workshops, and I probably tell a lot of you guys this one-on-one, when I enroll a new client and I'm going to be providing them data, I create them either one or two videos that I can either do custom. I like to make these evergreen so I could use them for each people, telling them, hey, number one, now you got this list and I provided it. Watch these two videos. Video number one is me explaining the best ways to reactivate the data, and I lay out the best methods. Do they all follow it and do what I say? No. And usually when they don't, those are the people complaining that the data is not working, the people that didn't follow. So I make a quick little video saying, hey, Doug, here's your list that you wanted for your whatever HVAC company in Seattle, Washington. Okay. Hey, here's one little video, 5 minutes on the best ways to reactivate the data. And here's another one about the legality and compliance questions that I get pretty frequently. And in that first one, more specifically to how they use the data, I always say this. Hey, Doug, your list is probably going to perform best when we lump into paid ads, second best in email campaigns, third best in SMS campaigns, and fourth best in cold calling. That's just what I see generally across my platform from all the data that's pulled off and resold by you guys or used by the brands and advertisers themselves. Are there going to be outliers in certain industries where cold calling might outperform ads and vice versa? Yeah, there's always going to be outliers, but generally speaking, those are the ways that the data is going to perform the best and the best ROI. I always recommend my clients do a minimum of two different activation channels. So with what I just told you in this, in this little 5 minute video, and then recommending two, I would hope most people pick ads and email, since I said those are probably the two most profitable, most lucrative, best ROI. So I make a video just explaining, here's your list, here's best applications. Now you guys go at it and let me know the results, right? So that's kind of the expectation I set. When you do that and people follow it, most often the data is going to perform at least at what they paid you for that list, if not higher. But a lot of that usually falls into when the data is not performing. And could it be I pulled a crappy list? I didn't pull the right people? Yeah, but that's kind of on you guys. You guys need to make sure you're pulling the proper audience, right? Once I've done that, if it's not performing, it usually goes back to shitty creative, crappy messaging, just no standout, nothing authentic in there. The things that we all talk about as business owners. You got to be able to stand out. You got to be able to present your value. You need to keep all of your content and messaging, especially in client acquisition type of lead gen emails, all around solutions, problems, results, and outcomes. So again, when people ask for refunds, what I've found is 80% of the time it's they did a crappy job reactivating the data. They either didn't do it in the manner I said, they did it with really crappy creative. I don't care how good of a list I pull. If I run it to an ad campaign with bullshit creative that's just so generic or so right? That nobody ever buy. It doesn't matter what I provide that person if he put together crappy creative, right? So something is still to be said about how they're activating the data.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah, I
very long
totally.
answer, Doug, but hopefully that answers your question.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you, and I did give some guidance to that client on how to do the reactivation and templates and guidelines, and that person is still happy. So I'm dealing with the proverbial turd in the punch bowl, as you would say. So I think no matter what I do, this client just would not be happy. So it is what it is at this point. But thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, no problem. I think we've all had those. And, when we have a client that no matter what we do, they're not going to be happy and what we would call a problem client, I mean, the best thing to do is cut ties with them and go find another one that's going to get results off the data, that's going to like what you're providing. But again, you're always going to have that person. So I'm glad you said the person that you did that for and is following it is happy and seeing results. And that's generally what I find.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about setting the proper expectations when we do the sales call and when we actually close the deal and sign the contract.
Right.
Salvador, you had a question next. Go ahead.
Yes. So I was I hear you guys talking about creating a list for a client. So does that mean they don't have access to like the white label portal? Do you not create a portal for them on the white label?
Thanks. Not all my clients do. You can do that. You can build them for them. Some of my clients, some of you guys might not still even have white label access. That's an extra tier in a package. So
Oh,
I don't know if Doug has the white label, if that's what he was talking about. Can you create your client a portal and have them go in there and do it themselves? Yes, you can with the white label. Does everybody do that? No, not everybody does, Salvador.
okay. And then I guess one question. When you guys talk about creating a list, is it like a list of like how many people to like price it? Like ballpark.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
a
need
great
like
question. Again, I don't go off the number of people. And what I like to do, and that's a really good question, what I like to do is I like to try to build the list around the capacity that that client can handle. I brought up this example a lot of times, and you guys know I sell a lot more to agencies here at Audience Lab. But a couple of years ago, I was selling and I was spinning off a couple of my own DaaS agencies, and I was selling to like brands and advertisers themselves, the way you guys do now. Again, at Audience Lab, we sell a lot more to agencies and resellers. When I was doing this, I was working with this woman, Tina, who owned a company called thecreditbureau.com. Now, when I first built her list of credit repair, she goes, Ray, I just want everybody that searched credit repair in the last 30 days in the US. It came back at the max size that a list is going to top out at, about a 500,000 people. I reached back out to Tina real quick before I provided the list. I go, Tina, how many leads can your team reach out to per month in a perfect world? She said about 20,000, Ray. So that's what I want to create the list to kind of fit her demand. For instance, in this case, if I had given Tina this list with a 500,000 people, two things would have happened. Number one, she would have never came back and bought another one because she could get to 20,000 a month, and I put a 500,000 on this list, right? Why is she going to come back and buy another list? Number two, 80% of that data is going to be dated and no good by the time she actually gets to it. Because if they search credit repair in the last 30 days and she's only getting the 20,000 a month, by the time she gets to, person 40,000, 60,000, they will have now searched it 3, 4 freaking months ago. So that data is almost irrelevant. So what I did in this case, once she told me 20,000, I went in and I said, okay, she's looking for people looking for credit repairs, but specifically low credit scores and people with poor credit. So I went in Detroit and found everybody with below an X credit score in these zip codes, came back with 20,000 people. That's what I provided her. She came back and bought another one next month. I did a different city. So again, my point here is I'm trying to build the list to the number capacity that they can actually handle. I don't want to way overdo it because again, the data is going to get less and less accurate the longer it gets time out from when they purchased it. And number two, if we give them a list with way more people they can get to, they have no incentive to come back and buy another one from you. So again, I try to craft them within what that business can actually do in terms of marketing, how many leads they reach out to per month via ads, email, whatever. But generally speaking, if you just do a very generic list like I just talked about, credit repair in the U.S., you're going to always top out at about that 500,000 people, especially if you're doing nationwide. I've sold lists to people with as little as 150 people on it and as many as a 500,000.
okay. Awesome. Thank you.
You can kind of mold it to fit the size you need is what I'm saying. Basically, you can use more keywords and more parameters and more pre-qualifiers because you can go very generic, like with this, for instance, this Tina and credit repair. At first I just typed credit repair in the US in the last 30 days. It came out at 500,000, and then I was like, okay, well, let me look inner cities, low credit scores, yada yada yada, and I would just batch them out in little 20,000 person increments and sell them each time she needed one.
Very well. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. So I will do some more of a Q&A. It looks like unless anybody else has a question, they can also type a 1 in the chat and let me know, and I can call on you. But I usually do a Q&A at the beginning and the end of the call, so I will also get back to the end of the one. Lisa, cool. You have one. Go ahead. You can go before I dive into my stuff. Go ahead, Lisa.
All right, there we go. Thanks. How's everybody? This is like my first real call. I sat in on one last week, but I couldn't really stay for the whole time. So I'm glad to be getting into this. I've been playing around with the preview of audiences. I have a childcare business, just to remind you. It's just my business, but I'm wanting to turn this into an agency after I exit. So I was just wondering, when I look at the pre-made list for, I was using Spark today, just playing around with trying to build my audience, and I noticed that there's a daycare services like daycare centers specifically, and it's got a 65% as the score. And I'm just wondering, first of all, can you help me understand that score? And is that something that I can use, or like is there a certain threshold for score where I should then maybe do a keyword list?
Sure. So let me screen share real quick, and I will get to that question as well. Just because I already had something up on my screen, I'm just gonna dive into this real quick
Okay.
before I go into the other thing that you just asked here, Lisa, about the
Okay.
scoring. But yeah, happy to dive into that. Let me just make a note. Again, I had this on the screen to cover anyway, so let me just go into this, and then I'll get back to your question there, Lisa. But
Okay.
this is something one of the aspects I was going to talk about. Cody did this post earlier today, and I found this very relevant, and certainly something we talk about on a lot of these sales calls, right? How to position the offer, how to craft messaging that's actually going to get responses and people to raise their hand. And I thought Cody had a really good idea here. This is something that I like as well. I like my cold outreach to be very, very short form, the least amount of words that just get them to reply. And we should always end with a question. I noticed that's a big thing. I was actually auditing one of my clients' messages last week, and everything was statements. And I'm like, when you're asking somebody a question, they feel a little bit more obliged to actually reply to you, right? So you guys should always have a question somewhere in or ending your initial message. But I like what Cody just said here, very, very basic, right? Hey, when I'm sending out cold emails, um, he's like, we rip 20 plus cold emails a day for each of our DaaS clients. And here's an example of the copy framework that's been smashing for them. I love anybody that's doing this and putting data behind it. I like it even more when it's a little bit of mass data. I mean, 20K per day. He's been doing it for X amount of days. He actually has some data to show here, right? But hey, Lisa, I'm sitting on a list of 50 in-market buyers currently looking to whatever, buy a daycare center, whatever, right? And they are actively looking for X solution, right? So would you want to see that list, and are you looking for new buyers? Like something just that simple. I think a lot of times we really try to overcomplicate our messaging. One thing I always say is sometimes we get too clever, and when you get too clever, it's almost like being cute. And once you do that, you lose the clarity of your messaging. Always clear over clever. Yes, great messaging probably has a combination of both clarity and cleverness, but a lot of people get too cute or sacrifice the clarity of their message because they try to get too clever, right? I think we do that almost to try to stand out. And it's like, okay, everybody's doing this. Let me pivot and do that. And that can be right. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong here, but I found that short form, straight to the point with a simple question or two back, somebody reads that, it doesn't take up a lot of their time. I know when I open an email, if I see it's 5 paragraphs and it's like not pressing, I probably skip and go on to the next one, right? I just do. It's just time consuming. But when it's 2 lines and I'm like, oh shit, they're actually sitting on a list of in-market buyers for my roofing company right now. People are looking for roofs. Hell yeah, I want more jobs for my guys. I want to see that list, right? It's just very quick and basic. So anyway, just wanted to highlight that. You guys might want to go in and look over that post. Now, what you were talking about there with the scoring, I believe you're referring to the lead scoring that came in at the lead. That was the 65%. So number one, we have a couple modules in the Getting Started with Audience Lab unit. Number one is how to measure the intent scoring and understanding the intent scoring. So down here, it shows the intent strength scores and where everyone falls. You said that was a 65.
Mhm.
So 65 would what we would declare based on our platform and the way we have it all structured, entering level or top of funnel intent. Probably nobody that's ready to make a purchase or sign up today. Generally speaking, again, there's always going to be outliers, but entering intent means somebody top of funnel that probably needs some more information right now. So when I see somebody with a 65 lead score and I want to reactivate them, I want to get them into a newsletter or to my company blog or something that talks about my solutions and maybe a little about the mission and the values, right? You want to get somebody that's going to read about your brand, what you offer, and relate to that and know that, oh, shoot, I'm looking for a daycare provider, right? Or whatever it is. So again, the more you can kind of understand the intent scoring, and I don't know if you've been through these modules yet, Lisa, I know you're pretty new, but this one, the intent scoring, how to measure, and then understanding the intent scores. I think when you go through those, Adam probably does a little better job of me of covering, the best ways to break down those intent scores. But that's kind of the quick little overview I can give you. And just for anybody else wondering about this, entering intent 54 to 70, again, that's more of a top of funnel buyer, somebody that's just now maybe actively searching for something, but not necessarily ready to make a purchase. Somebody that's just now getting into the market or just now open to the idea of getting a new roof, enrolling their kid into a daycare, whatever it is, right? And then we have the medium intent, which I consider middle of funnel. Those are people that are probably now actively looking for details, whether that's pricing, locations, discounts. They're starting to look at the details. And then high intent was a bottom of funnel. That person is probably ready to make a purchase or book a call today, whatever your sales funnel is. If I'm selling an e-com program and somebody's high intent, I want to send them right to my checkout page and right to my product page. If somebody's high intent, I'm in more of a service-based business, I want to get them booked in for a demo or a sales call or whatever that is. So as I always say to people, the intent scores most highly correlate to how we're going to reactivate that person. And again, somebody top of funnel entering level intent, I'm going to send a far different copy messaging as well as the asset or resource in there than I'm going to send to somebody that's bottom of funnel and high intent. I'm going to go with a more strong call to action. Hey, it looks like you're out there actively looking to enroll your kid into a childcare. Is that true? We have a great center, yada, 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 come in for a tour on this day. Whatever, right? So you can go through these modules and get a little more, in-depth answers there, Lisa, but hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I was as far as like the 65% goes. So when I'm in building my audience, I'm just wondering like if I'm searching. So when I use Spark today, I used the keyword option and I generated some, I got some optimized search, I guess, keywords.
Yep.
That's what I copied and pasted into, so that was a separate audience that I was working on. So I just did the pre-made and then I went towards the keywords option. And I'm just wondering which is better. So, I can still, even though the daycares was 65%, I can still choose low, medium, or high. So I'm just wondering how that all marries up. If they're not actually high intent buyers in the pre-made, and then I'm choosing high, like does that make sense to
It does
do?
make
Or
sense. I'm not the best person to answer that question.
okay,
To be honest, my
that's
data
fine.
strategy workshop guys, the ones we run
Okay,
3 times a week at 1 p.m. Eastern, those guys can answer
okay,
those questions and get into the intricacies of the list a little better. It's
all
just
right.
not what I do day in and day out here anymore, Lisa. So I'd rather those guys that are
No
in the
worries.
trenches answer that for you than me, I can give you a dated answer, but what good is that?
That's fine. I thought maybe this wasn't the right call for that, but I needed to
I
ask
mean, it
because
never
I'm
hurts
trying
to
to get
ask.
this list done.
I
But
get
so
it.
tomorrow at 1 is the next one?
I believe
I'll look.
I can look it up right now. I
No,
can look
I
it up
got
right
it.
now.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'll look. I'll look at the calendar. Yeah, thank
I
you.
believe it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. And
Okay.
then Josh, you just asked, so this is my first sales call. Are these recorded? And if so, where can we find them in the members portal? So within school, we are currently revamping one of the modules that is all the replays to get all of our workshops in there. Until that's done, and it should be done very, very soon. I'm surprised it wasn't. It was a goal to have done by the end of 25, and we didn't hit it. So I can hold myself accountable there. There's a goal I didn't hit, and I'll get on the team to do that. But for mine, at least in the meantime, what I can say and show you is each one of mine are recorded and uploaded to the school channel. And I'm going to go in and show you guys on the screen. So when you come into school, it looks like this at the regular homepage. Let me move this toolbar out of my way. When you look at the main channels down here, if you click on more, there's one that says sales. Now, all my workshop recordings and this one as well, whoever just asked, I think it was Josh that asked, this one as well will be uploaded into this channel before the end of the day. So every single one that I run, and again, it's been a couple weeks, so you're probably not going to see one going back for a couple weeks, but there you go, 21 days ago. So yeah, we missed 2 weeks. There's that one. Then you'll see one from 28 days ago right there, so on and so forth. So mine are in the sales channel and they're posted every day. Very soon, when in the classroom section, when you look on the recordings tabs, right now, all that's in here is some of Adam's Wednesday workshops, and even not all of these are updated. We're getting this revamped so all the workshops get uploaded into one module, and then they'll be broken down by each category: data strategy, sales, yada, yada, yada. We just hadn't got that finished yet. So hopefully that answers your question, Josh. But in the meantime, mine all get uploaded right into that sales channel there, and this one will be there later today. And I always put a little breakdown of what was covered, and you could look through it and be, oh, that's relevant, or oh, that's not relevant. I don't want you guys watching hour-long replays if it has nothing to do with what you're focusing on or what you're looking to cover. So one thing I talked about at the beginning, and again, I know I see some new faces on here, but something that I share on every single one of these workshops, and one of the resources I put together, and most of you guys get this when you do that one-on-one, PHO and or fastest path to cash call. We kind of have two different names for it, but this is what's called our seller resources for closing data deals. So everything from a Google Doc showing you the sales process that I recommend building out, a tutorial going over that and showing what that looks like throughout our sales process. I recommend a 2-call sales process. So call number 1 for your sales call, your triage for your sales process, I should say. Your triage call, there's a script or a framework already built out for you. Call number 2, the sales or your demo call, there's a script or framework already built out for you. A copy of the authority pitch deck we give to you guys to use on your sales presentations. Again, nothing here is branded to Audience Labs. When you download it, make your own copy, and then there's just a short pitch deck that you can show your market. Hey, this is exactly how I find your ideal audience. This is exactly how we then upload it into your marketing or advertising campaigns, etc. Number 7 on this document, a overview about a 15 or 20-minute tutorial that's focusing specifically on the identity resolution tool, our Super Pixel. So if you guys are working with any clients that drive significant traffic to a particular website or landing page, and you're not yet using or selling the Pixel, you're probably going to want to watch this tutorial that really shows you, number 1, how to assess if it's a good fit and the ROI on the back end, and if it's going to be a home run for your prospect. And then number 2, the different pricing structures that I would utilize. Number 8 on this document, about 20 or so of my sales call recordings. I know a few of you guys have sent me messages. Hey, Ray, I went through 2 or 3 of your sales call recordings, and just really understanding your terminology, your verbiage, your approach, and adapting that to my style really helped me close more deals. So anybody that hasn't yet had this or seen it, I'm going to go drop this link in the chat right now for everybody. So right there in the chat, that Google Doc link is the one to this document that's on my screen that I just shared with you. Again, I just put it in the chat for anybody that doesn't have it or lost it. One other thing I wanted to cover really quick. One thing that I found, guys, and you guys may know my background in sales. I run a sales training company. I must have trained and placed somewhere between 50 and 100 reps in the last year or two into high ticket offers. And one thing I see, I guess I would say I see this a little less from maybe a seasoned sales rep as opposed to like a business owner that is also their own salesperson. Now, not to say not some business owners are great salespeople, they are, but it's kind of the anomaly. It's not the norm. What I've found is a lot of business owners are great at knowing their business and their product, but a lot of them really do suck at sales. I'll just be honest about it. And a lot of them have a fear of sales. They might not come out and say it. It's more of like an internal hesitation, apprehension, almost like they don't feel right about it. And that comes off on a sales call. So what I want to say to people, anybody that might fall into that bucket that feels like they have a little bit of fear of sales, I've found that when I've worked with these clients and really kind of dove into their brain, because I don't have that mechanism in my brain. I'm not shy of sales. I've never been afraid of it. So I'm lucky there, right? I know a lot of people are, but I didn't really understand the psychology behind it. So when I got into it, what I found was the core reason people are afraid of sales is they feel like they're manipulating people on sales calls. It's just flat out. That's like the number one reason why people have a fear of sales. What I found is manipulation, if you think about it, is when you are kind of twisting your words and the sales call to make somebody buy something that they might not need or want. That's manipulation. What we do on sales calls as service providers, if we're with the right person, is we provide a service or a solution that they're already looking for and they want, and we're just helping them get it right here, right now, today. So number 1, for all of you guys that feel like sales is manipulation, it only is if you're speaking to the wrong customer or you're selling stuff to people that you can't really help, and that's on you. I hope nobody's that type of salesperson. Me, I don't feel like I manipulate anybody. I feel like I show them a clear solution to a problem, and then they were looking for that solution. Hey, I can get you started and enrolled today so we can solve that problem. Do you want to move forward, Bob, Joe, Lisa? Yeah, I would love to get that problem solved. So keep that in mind. A couple good analogies or examples, like, guys, if you go into the doctor's office and they check you out and they have a cure for your ailment, whatever that may be, do you think they owe it to you to try to persuade you to get the cure to that disease or that treatment? Or should they just not bring it up because they're afraid of manipulating you, right? Like, they're just giving you a solution and telling you something that you probably want to hear. Same thing with what's the drowning analogy, right? Somebody's drowning and you throw them a life preserver. Now, were you pushy? Were you manipulating them, or did they probably want that life preserver and you're just helping them get it right now, right? So those are just a couple of quick little analogies that I can make, just quick off the top of my head. Just think to yourself, as a service provider, and in this case, a data provider, can this customer benefit from good data? Once I give it to them, are they running marketing and advertising campaigns? And can you see a clear path for them to take this data and land clients and deals out of it? If the answer is yes, you're almost doing them a disservice by not trying to sell them, what they could use to get that result. So again, that's just a quick little food for thought there, and something that I kind of had an epiphany on when I was looking back through my notes of all my sales trainings at the end of 2025. I remembered meeting with these 40 or so different people and kind of diving to their brain. And I remember writing in 31 cases out of 40 people that said they had a fear of sales. Their big thing was, hey, Ray, I don't want to manipulate people. Again, I don't think you are as a salesperson unless you're selling to the wrong person or you are happy to enroll a bad fit, which I would never recommend. I think there's a lot of power in being able to turn away people that aren't the ideal fit. And I think it gives you a little more self-worth as a business owner too. It's like you can get in a conversation and say, hey, Lisa, based on everything you're doing in your business, I really don't think you're at the spot where data is going to be a game changer for you. If I were you, I would probably be investing in a little more marketing and ads right now, and hit me up in 6 months when you've got to that next stage of your business. There's nothing wrong with saying that to somebody, guys.
So, quick question for you.
Go.
I'm curious to know, in your experience with Audience Lab, with your business, is there like a top 5, top 10, like most effective use of this service for like in niches or industries? And I'm asking because I, you know, I'm one of those people who can sell on my tours and to my parents, because I truly believe that I'm solving a problem for them, and I want them to I want their child to experience what we have to offer. And so, I've got like 12 or 13 childcare facilities within a 1 to 2 mile radius of my location. I think I'm the only like private, like small mom and pop. Everything else is like a big chain, which is actually a selling point in itself.
Probably
Um,
works in your favor. Yeah.
yeah, but one thing that someone said to me once was that, even though the other facilities are, most of them bigger, have more amenities, the owner sets the tone. So like they don't have me. And so, I guess I'm just curious to know, like, in terms of, so I feel like I could go into any industry. I know childcare, so I know I can help the childcare industry, but I don't know if it's the most I don't know, scalable.
Most
So I
lucrative,
guess,
quickest ROI, that kind of stuff.
yeah. So I just wanted to get your thoughts
Yeah.
on, I actually love data. I'm kind of a nerd that way, and so I feel like people, for an owner or a business that has good quality data, that's like a huge shortcut for them, saving a lot of time, saving a lot of headache. Maybe, taking some pressure off of them in, producing revenue. Maybe they're getting ready to sell. So like I see any service that I provide as like if I can help you, then that's a win. I just don't know if the childcare industry is the industry for me to utilize this and sell it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, my thoughts are, well, let's start first off the most popular and lucrative niches and industries. Now, as a co-owner of the platform, like I kind of get to see a report at the end of the month and the end of the year of all the data being pulled up our platform. I can tell you for about 6 or 8 months minimum, it could even be more than this. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but 6 or 8 or more of the months in 2025, the most predominant niches that were downloaded were real estate mortgage. I'm going to kind of lump into one, solar, e-commerce, insurance. And again, I'm going to put that in one. It could be life insurance, could be car insurance, but just insurance. And then I would say lastly, I would lump all general home services in kind of that fifth one. But I would say real estate mortgage, insurance, solar, e-commerce, and then general home services probably comes in fifth. Those are the 5 that I see, again, pretty much month in and month out when I go look at the reports of the data being extracted off the platform. Usually those 5 are, if not top 5, they're still in the top 10 at minimum.
Okay.
But, also to the other side of that, let's look at this from like the play devil's advocate. If those are the most downloaded lists and the most being sold every month, that means those niches have a little more competition and saturation and people already working them. I'm not saying that there's not still lots of opportunity there, but if you get results with the data for childcare for yourself in your own center, if I were you personally, I would probably stay in that until I at least figured out something would have to prove to me that it's not scalable or profitable to make me
Mhm.
switch. If I
Right.
were you personally, I personally, again, and I've said this to a lot of people, if I was to go start up my new DaaS agency tomorrow and spin one off my own little side one, I would go into one of two areas: something I have a past expertise and profession in, or something I have a very high interest and liking for. So I could
Mhm.
at least talk the talk at minimum, right? And you obviously know and love the childcare industry, and what you do, and you could, it just the lingo and the business model, you know all of it. So I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't kind of want to just throw all that away and go into an industry that, yeah, I can learn and be successful in, but it's not like my forte, and I don't really, I'm not really jazzed up about it. So
Yeah.
for me, and I've used this analogy before. I'm a live music junkie. A lot of anyone that knows me for a while knows that. I've been to somewhere between 500 and 1,000 live concerts. If I was to go spin up a new DaaS agency tomorrow, I would start working with local guitar shop owners that sell Fender Stratocaster guitar models. Now, I know personally, number one, the cheapest model Fender Stratocaster guitar goes for around $2,000. So even if I drive 5 people into this guitar shop's owner store that buy, and they buy the lowest model, that makes at least 10 G's different in his business. And
Mhm.
again, I think we all know not everybody buys the lowest scale model. Somebody's going to buy the bells and whistles model that's, 10 G's or more. Number two, I can pick up the phone and call those guys all day and, hey, Dave's guitar shop. Hey, Dave. Hey, how long you own the guitar shop? Hey, you seen any good local bands around lately? Who's your favorite guitar player? And just shoot the shit for a minute and be like, hey, man, the reason I was actually reaching out to you is, but my point is, I could just shoot the shit and talk guitar, bands, local musicians, break the ice, and then be like, hey, Dave, if I could drive an extra 5 or 10 buyers into your shop this month, would that make a difference in your business? Would you like me to do that for you? Cool. Let me show you how that would look. So for me, it's just like a seamless conversation that I would enjoy, have fun, and then it would just transition into, hey, can I drive some more buyers into your company this month? Would that bother you? No, Ray, don't send me more buyers, right? Like nobody really says that, especially when you built a little rapport and broke the ice. So again, I highly recommend going to something that you either have a past, experience in history, or you at least really like and enjoy, and it's something that kind of fires you up. Again, that's just my recommendations. That's where I've seen people have the most success too. I've seen a few of you guys, not many, but a few of you guys spin up a DaaS agency and go toward a niche or an industry just because they were chasing money, and they weren't fired up about it. They burnt out quick. Once people got into like the intricacies of the business in a conversation, they couldn't follow along. Those things are all going to kind of shoot you in the foot in terms of building a real agency. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have in order for a list to be effective, like for a single location, let's say where, the business owner can only handle, say, um, I don't know, 500 leads a month. What would be if, I don't know if this is even a thing, but how many, what size list makes sense to provide? That, are you saying like a list of 500 or a list of even 50 if it's like every week? Is that going to be enough for them? Like, think about my business.
If they could told me they can handle and reach out to about 500 per month, that's what I would try to create that list size. I would try to give
Okay.
them about a month's worth. I've
Okay.
actually found that a majority, when I'm selling just to like a business, a brand or advertiser, an e-com store owner, on average, a majority of my businesses buy about 2 lists per month. Even when I give them, like, let's just say again, hey, I can handle 500. I sell them a list of 500. I found a lot of times they come back about 2, 3 weeks after that and say, hey, man, that worked really well. I closed a few deals. I want to buy another one. So sometimes they even find a way to spin through it a little quicker if it's good data and they're seeing results.
And then, so for these lists, are they effective for us to use? Like, how often should we be, I guess, refreshing the audience for like Facebook ads, Google ads?
I think that also correlates to the niche of the industry you're in. What is the
Okay.
buying cycle in that niche or industry? And that's kind of what would answer the question. So if I get a lead on day one and they don't enroll until day 14, let's just say into my daycare center, it's about a 2 week cycle. I
Mhm.
probably want to refresh every 14 days or so. So I'm getting fresh leads in a new buying cycle. If it's an e-com store, I probably want to refresh every 24 hours because I'm just sending
Right.
traffic to a checkout page. You know what I mean? So I
Okay.
think it kind of varies based on the sales cycle in that niche or industry.
And then as far as the super pixel, like, how do you, what's the best way to sell that to, like, let's say, a childcare parent company that's got like 170 locations, all with different websites. How do you sell that super pixel? I guess it would be by location.
You'd have to if they all have all different websites.
Okay.
Yeah, in that case, you could also, if you come to that and that becomes, I wouldn't say a problem, that'd be a good problem to have.
Mhm.
But if you can sell more pixels than you have access to, we can also upgrade your account and give you enterprise and like basically unlimited pixels. Um, but the way I would approach that or attack that if I'm dealing with, you said about 170 websites, and let's say they want to start out trying it on maybe 10 websites, okay?
Yeah.
Um, I would say, hey, normally, Lisa, my Pixel is a $1,500 a month tool, but since you guys are going to be buying in bulk and you're likely to be a good customer, I'm going to do them at half price and sell them to you at 750. So I would probably just cut my price in half for somebody that's going to be buying bulk. What your guys' cost comes down to on our plans per pixel, even in our more expensive plans, is like $175 per pixel. So 750 is still profit margin all day.
Mhm.
Normally, I don't ever recommend selling the Pixel for less than $1,500. That's also just selling one individually, not bulk or not somebody that's going to be, a customer buying 10, 20, 50, maybe 170 of them, right? So that's probably how I do it. I just do probably a straight retainer and do a 50% off because they're likely to be a bulk customer.
Okay. I got to get through the modules because I'm probably asking questions that are answered in there, but just trying to
That's what
get
these
my list
workshops
up
are
and
for.
running. Yeah.
That's what these
Thank
workshops are
you.
for. Another thing I always like to remind you guys of, and real quick, I'm just going to share my screen. This is on a document that I made for some of our, this one was for affiliates, right? But this is what I found. Some of you guys may know this, and some of you guys might even been some of those conversations. But throughout 2025, over the course of 8 months, I met with about 150 of our different DaaS agency clients about 2 months after they enrolled. One of the main questions I asked, specifically to our successful ones that were profitable and getting results with the data, hey, Bob, what's the biggest difference in your agency now having DaaS as opposed to 2 months ago or before you enrolled? And just keep in mind kind of the biggest benefits that got regurgitated to me from our clients, right? Is the number one thing I heard is, Ray, now I can stand out when I go to sell my lead generation services because I have data and about 97% of my competition can't offer this. Almost everybody can offer SEO or Facebook ads and those kind of stuff. Eventually we become very commoditized. But having the data and like the in-market first party intent driven data where we're tracking, and again, I always kind of go over these numbers when I put this on my landing pages or websites that I might be driving clients to, but my database tracking 280 million users, 1.9 trillion behaviors, and up to 60 billion URLs, I can build you a custom in-market winning audience that we can run right your emails and your ads to. So the ability to stand out, the ability to charge more and or offer different products. So if you came into Audience Lab, which a lot of you guys do, as some other type of either full stack or boutique agency, I know I've had a lot of Facebook ad agencies enroll and then bolt on DaaS. I've had a lot of GHL agencies, bolt on DaaS because GHL has become super commoditized. Anybody can go get a white label GHL accounts and just do CRM setups all day. But when you can set up somebody's CRM and then get them a list of data and upload it in there so they have leads, that becomes more valuable and makes the CRM more productive, right? The ability to build out more of an MRR type of business model. I know a lot of the agencies, especially the people that enrolled in 25 and before, are still kind of on that old kind of, I don't want to say it's a dying model, but it's a much tougher scale model to just go on that base retainer method as opposed to a more monthly recurring revenue method. And again, I'm not saying some base retainers don't work out the similar as monthly recurring revenue, but also a lot of base retainers, let's just say you charge your client $2,000 a month for your Facebook ads. From what I've heard from, again, those 150 conversations I had in a lot of our Facebook ad agencies, the actual lifespan of most of their clients was about 2 months and they're falling off for whatever reason, not getting results, overpromise and underdeliver, found a different marketing team, whatever it is. So that's not a very long MRR if you're getting somebody to stay on for 2 months on your monthly retainer, which might be a better way to offer something that other people can't, such as data, to offer performance-based compensation where they only pay based on the results they see, etc. And then number four, I heard this from quite a few of you guys. Hey, once I got my DaaS model down and I really understood the building the audiences and then how to sync them to where the client wants it. Could be ad campaigns, could be the CRM, maybe it's just a Google sheet with the data. But once you get that down, I've heard a lot of you guys tell me that the time you spend in fulfillment is a lot less than before when you were just an ad agency or just a copywriting agency. So always keep in mind, always keep in mind the benefits of how you guys operate as an agency and what you kind of have access to with Audience Lab. Again, just wanted to kind of re-emphasize and re-highlight that because that was the feedback I got from meeting with a lot of you guys throughout the year. Um, There's only 10 more minutes left. I'm not going to dive into something new. I'm going to save it for next week because I didn't think I would get to that today anyway. But there's no way I can get through my one last thing. So I'm going to save that for next week's lesson. Did we have any other questions or anything else I didn't cover today that anyone was hoping I would? Feel free to put the hand raise emoji or just type a 1 in the chat. I'll give it another minute or two to see if anybody has anything. Otherwise, we might just end a little 5-10 minutes early. Go ahead, Lisa. Hey, you're the only one. Somebody's got to ask me questions.
Does anybody else have a question before I ask?
If they do, they'll raise their hand or type it in.
Right.
They're not incompetent.
So, so you said that you could upload an audience to a CRM.
Correct.
So are there any, so for example, I hired a company a couple months ago to do my Facebook ads so that I could learn their process. I have a CRM going right now. Yep. So if once I get my audience dialed in, I can, when I generate it, I can upload that to my CRM and send emails, text messages with no concern about things bouncing or getting, I guess.
Wouldn't necessarily say no concern. Now, great question here. What we do personally is when we take we only utilize our CRM outreach for a warm audience that have already opted in. Our cold, like if we're just building lists, we actually send that to our email, our ESP, our email service provider, and blast those out, different from our CRM. So again, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but I know what we do internally. We only use the CRM for actual opt-in data in terms of who we're sending SMS and emails to. I know in certain CRMs you can with a cold list, but I think you're much better if you're going to cold to do it through an ESP rather than out of a CRM.
So
email service provider.
Yeah, I do use Instantly already. And I think you mentioned that Audience Lab has a cold
Audience Send as well, which is just a cheaper version of Instantly that performs a little better in terms of deliverability.
Okay, so I could upload the list into that platform and then start a cold email campaign.
Correct.
That way? Okay. And if I've already, I have warmed email inboxes already with Instantly, but those are part of my Google Workspace. So I can just, do I just bring those mailboxes over to?
Pretty certain. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% on that. You would ask yeah.
I saw the cold email masterclass, so I'll take a look at that.
There's a cold email one in there, and then there's another module just labeled Audience Send with a little information about the ESP, and it probably has the answer to your question right there, to be honest with you.
Because I think if I actually would really like to use my audience for cold email and my Google ads and my Facebook ads. It sounds like that's what you recommend.
What I would recommend. Oh, definitely.
And then it sounds like, because I would say that when people want to schedule a tour, like they want to get in the next week or two. So maybe every 2 weeks would be good to refresh the data. And that might be something like easier to bite off versus like weekly.
Actually, with what you just said, I might go every week. I might refresh it once a week with what you just told me there. That's probably how often I would be doing it with what you just said. Yeah. One other thing also, you guys will see it get posted in the calendar channel, and something I did in November, and we're going to be doing every month or every other month through 2026, is I'm going to be bringing in once per month, about maybe every other month, an outside, not Audience Lab expert guest that I think can bring something else to the table that not my team either teaches or does. So anyway, just to give you a brief little announcement, I'll have a post about it and it'll be updated into the calendar section. But on Thursday, January 22nd is going to be my next outside guest, who just has a vast wealth of knowledge in just overall digital business strategy and leadership. So he's going to be coming in to teach a workshop on that again on the 22nd, Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern. But I just literally locked him in, and we had a half-hour conversation earlier when we went through his whole presentation and what he wants to teach you guys. And if I see a lot of value there, I accept them. People come to me with weak-ass presentations or no value. They don't get booked in. So this guy was good and solid. So again, I'll have an updated announcement and that will be added on. But since I just had that conversation and solidified that today, I just figured I would share it here with you guys now. Josh, you had a question real quick? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's pretty good question. We were at a basketball game, but just if you were at like a networking event or something along those lines, like, and you were just introducing yourself or just talking to someone that you may haven't seen in a while, it's just a very like fluid and seamless way that you might talk about the service and the value that it provides.
Sure. So I would say, hey, Josh, man, I know we haven't caught up in a while. Hey, man, one thing I wanted to let you know, because I know you still own that business there, is I just got a licensing key to this awesome data platform where I'm tracking over 280 million users, 1.9 trillion behaviors, and up to 60 billion URLs. I would love to try it out for you and build you an audience so we can target your ideal buyers and drive more customers into your business. You open to see, at least pursuing that? It would just be like that, very basic.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate
I
it.
think
Thank
that's a
you.
really good one. I bought a licensing key into the top #1 historically accurate data platform on the internet. I can give any brand, advertiser, or business owner highly targeted leads at a lower price than anyone out there. However you want to approach it, but something like that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Gary, you had typed this in the chat. Let me just read it real quick. I do this for a client, always validate and AI personalization before sending to. Oh, okay. You were kind of putting a note in there for what Lisa was just talking about. And that makes a lot of sense, actually, what you're saying there. Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. Bob, any thoughts on avoiding landing in the promotion box? I know this is a long answer. Now, I am not by any means the resident email expert on our team. Outside of writing the copy, I do quite a bit of that, but I don't manage the campaigns and I don't send them. What I can say, number one, is I know through our split testing there in 2025, between what we ran through the audience send email service provider and what we ran through Instantly and Smartly, the other two kind of, I would say, most predominant ESPs I see most of our agency clients using. Just our ESP by itself has enhanced or increased deliverability to the primary inbox. So that's one thing I can say there. I think that's a much better question for our data strategy workshop guys. If you ever hop on there, those guys work with a lot of clients that take their list and embed them directly into the email campaigns. Just not something I do a hell of a lot of, Bob. But I think the number one thing I look for if I'm trying to hit the primary inbox is having a very credible and reliable email service provider that I know has the highest deliverability of hitting inboxes. So at number one, it comes down to the ESP, and then number two, it comes down to how warmed up your domains are, and how much kind of business proof you have. One thing I heard that's changing, and I was actually I don't know, maybe just a week ago, right at the end of 2025, I was meeting with Lewis Naylor on the team. Some of you guys might know him and have worked with him. And he was telling me about the email service provider that he's currently working with, somebody that's kind of in the trenches all day in and day out on this. He said some changes are coming in 2026 where basically email service providers are going to be able to tell when they're about to send out emails. They'll be able to tell, like, the AI now in email autoresponders is basically doing a background check to see if your business is established. Did this business just pop up yesterday? Is there actual social proof? So the more established your company and your domain is, the better chance you're going to have of hitting, the proper inboxes. And if you're a brand new business, no social proof, no reviews, nothing about you online, your chances of hitting the inbox are going to be even lower and lower in 26 and beyond. So you want to have credible business and domains, and you want to have a solid, credible and reliable email service provider. Those are the top two things I can give you on that, Bob. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, good. That worked out perfect. So we're right up about to the end of it. So guys, we will see you here next Tuesday, same time, same place for, workshop number 2 of 2026. And as I mentioned before the end of the day, this replay will be uploaded in the sales channel within school, if anybody wants to watch it back. Thank you guys for your participation, your questions. And next week, I'm going to have more of a planned out, structured lesson. I only came with a couple small tidbits because I wanted to make this more of a Q&A after taking a couple of weeks off for the holidays and stuff. So thank you, everybody, for your participation and your attention. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.